Hi guys, we're back here with yet another session. I have with me Brian Massey. He is actually the founder of Conversion Sciences and the author of the book Your Customer Creation Equation. And his rare combination of interest and experience were, developed over his 30 years of working as a computer programmer, entrepreneur, corporate marketer, international speaker, and writer. So Conversion Sciences helps businesses transform their sites through a steady diet of visitor profiling, purposeful content, analytics, and A/B testing. So Brian, welcome. Thank you very much for being here with us today for the eCommerce Growth Summit. Thank you to
glad to
all
be
of
here.
the people that I see, in your session. I'm going to leave you on the stage and looking forward to hearing your keynote.
Alone on the stage. Hello, everybody. So it's interesting times. So I wanted to talk about injecting data into the design process, and there's really two angles I'm going to take on this. Number one is helping your business, and I'm also going to focus on helping your business in these times. We're all sheltering in place. Many of our businesses are closing. Our supply lines are closing. It's a tough time. So I want to start with the business, but I hope that you'll take what I'm talking about for you personally as a practitioner or as the leader of a team that is involved in digital marketing. So with that excellent intro, I don't really need to talk too much about myself. Here's what I want to do. I want to talk about 6 alternatives to hiring conversion sciences. You probably don't have the budget for us. And so I want to give you some strategies that you can use, so that you can minimize the impact as much as possible during these times and come out of the gate when things recede even stronger. So I think we've all said this. Remember when I said I was going to get some training if I only had the time? Well, that's strategy number 1. Get yourself and get your team some training. There's a lot of great training on the web in the conversion optimization and analytics and user research area. Too much to list, but we do have a course that talks about our process so that when things do return, you're going to know exactly how to use tools like OmniConvert to improve your business. So that's number 1. Number 2, we are recommending to our clients that they change their focus, especially our e-commerce clients. What we're seeing with our clients is an increase in traffic or flat traffic for some of them. Some of them are just not important during this time of social distancing and sheltering in place and closing of businesses. But for those that are seeing an increase, they're seeing a decrease in conversion rate. So people are still looking, but they're not spending the money. So we're recommending that they focus on list building, offer some content or something, free versions of your online service or free products, anything to grow your list so that as things recede, you can use that list to supercharge your recovery. And this is a way of taking market share from your competitors who are locking everything down and just hunkering down. We love our customers, but we often don't take the time to give them the attention that they need because we're so focused on acquisition. Well, for most of us, acquisition is fading away at this point. So this is a great time to think of ways to love up our existing customers. We just don't do enough of this, and hopefully this will give us the muscle memory that we need to continue treating our existing customers as the royalty that they deserve to be treated as. And then for you, so you might consider using this time to look into hiring your own team. I don't want to be too negative, but there is going to be a tight job market. Hiring data scientists, user researchers, test technicians, developers who have front-end test development capabilities. It's going to be a tighter job market, so you may have an opportunity to attract some of these workers that before, in a competitive market, you weren't able to. The other thing is take this time to create great content. If you are reducing your spend, I know that we're seeing a drop in inventory on most of the ad networks. if you are cutting back, invest in great content, educate people, entertain people. It's an investment in your audience and that you'll help them be a better buyer in the future. And of course, will pay off on the SEO side for you long term. And then finally, I recommend that you get a lab coat. They've studied the lab coat. It's the reason that I'm wearing one right now. The lab coat, when they test it, they found that we'll score on average 17% higher on cognitive tests than if we're wearing street clothes. So when you put on the lab coat, you're instantly smarter. And during this time, it turns out the lab coat is a great garment to have because it has extra length. You get full coverage and protection and warmth in the fetal position, which too many of us are in right now. So those are my 6 recommendations for what to do during this time of pulling back. Now I want to dive into data, and I want to start off with kind of a cautionary tale. And I'm going to take us back to November 18th, 2012. So this was what the finishline.com website looked like back on November 18th. And on November 19th, the very next day, this is what it looked like. So this was quite a shift. Can you hear the excitement of the agency and the executives? A real complete branding, stylized images, high quality photos, content coming in from the blog, minimalistic category pages, just a beautiful, beautiful site. Well, it didn't take long for them to realize that this was not what their visitors wanted. Within a few weeks, they had lost $3 million through lowered conversion rates. How does this happen? How does a smart agency, well-funded, an executive and account team that knows their customers get all the way to launch and not realize that they are about to shoot themselves in the foot? Well, the answer lies between our ears. It's 3 pounds of biases that are clouding our judgment. And this is exactly what data is about. So our brains are focused on the cool design and what's awesome, and it's not hard for groupthink to settle in. The data is there to remind us that, yeah, what you think you like may not be true for your audience. So this is why we have behavioral science. It's designed to quell the voices in our head that tell us, look cool, look good, be different, be novel, because those things may not be what our visitors want. And I want to fundamentally change the design process. So I've been talking about this for years, and hopefully we're making a dent. Because the way of designing a campaign or redesigning a website has always followed this path. From the days of Mad Men, when we were talking about print and TV and radio advertising, we've still adopted that on the web, despite the availability of all this amazing, amazing data that we can collect. We start off doing user research. We do our personas, our marketing surveys. We gather all of this, have a marvelous presentation, and then we hand all of that off to a team who has to extract what's the positioning, what's the right copy, what images should we use, how should we lay this out. They get all the way through, making tens of thousands of decisions, but they don't know if they're making the right decisions until they launch. Now, quantitative behavioral data is amazing, but we don't want to get to that point before we finish line ourselves in the foot. This is what it's going to look like going forward. And you need to know how to use the tools to gather data at every step. We start off with the research, but when we come up with positioning ideas, we can test the copy. When we have the copy that we're looking for, what images support those value propositions? We have that, what kind of layout are we going to need to do that? We can test layouts, and I'm going to talk about how you do that. We'll get the mock-ups, get them approved. And by this time, we're launching something that already has a body of data behind it that says this is probably going to be a success. And the advantage of this is about more than just selling more stuff. So as a marketer, you have helicopter executives that will flock in and say, "Oh my gosh, things aren't going well. I need to inject my opinion." Well, if you have some data and you can present that to them and say, "Hey, we tested this and this is the design that works, regardless of what you or your spouse thinks, this is what's probably going to work," they should back off and say, "Okay, let's go with the data." If they're, your team and your agencies, um, I mean, we've all had this experience of our agency come to us and say, "Here are 3 mock-ups, pick the one you want us to go with." Well, the answer should be no. Get me some data that tells me which one of these I should go with. I'm not a designer. And so how we work with our agencies when we start requesting data and we start requesting research is going to improve, and their deliverable is going to improve. When things go bad, we start looking around and saying, "Oh, what are our competitors doing?" We steal ideas from other websites, but we don't know if those ideas are really working for our audience. So we like to steal like a scientist. We can test the ideas that we're stealing or collect some data around the ideas that we're stealing so that we don't just put things on our site because somebody else did. I think about the carousels that we had for years. In most cases, they reduced conversion rates. They slowed the load time. They didn't really help people. The motion distracted us, but everyone was doing it because someone else was doing it. We don't want to do that. And this is my favorite. So we got into marketing not because we wanted to hit our goals for sales leads or because we were hitting quarterly goals for sales. We probably got into it because we wanted to change hearts and minds. We wanted to communicate as humans. Well, when things are tough, we get safe. What do we need to do to put more of that crazy idea, those crazy ideas back into the pipe? On a Friday afternoon where your brain loosens up a little bit and you start to think about great ideas and you think all weekend about this great idea that could change things. And then on Monday, you go into the office, you're like, I could never sell that to anybody. I'm going to show you some ways you could collect some data and find out if it in fact is a great idea or if you are just crazy. And the reason, of course, the bottom line is more leads, more sales. This is why people hire us. But I think all of these other reasons really are how we get mental sanity from data. Now, we've been able to do this with all kinds of people. If you don't think you're Massey, hopefully by the time I'm done here, you will. I mean, we're talking about people that don't have a college education, Russian literature majors, all kinds of people have earned their lab coat as our client or our partner. And I know that you can do this. Any one of us is capable of using behavioral science in the service of our prospects and customers. And to prove that, I'm going to take us on a little journey. We're going to build a landing page together. And as we do this, I'm going to show you where you can plug in some inexpensive, easy to use tools to hedge your bets and find out if you're on the right course. Now, a landing page like I'm talking about only has 2 jobs. 2 jobs and 2 jobs only. Keep this in mind. The first job of a landing page is to keep the promise that was made in an ad, in a social media post, in an email, or in a link on your website. Keep the promise. If you don't know what promise is bringing people to this page, you're not building a landing page. You're building something else. You're building a home page. You're building a routing page, an informational page. A landing page serves the people that are being invited to come to it. And that's really where it gets its power. So keep the promise. The second job of a landing page is to bring the visitor to choice. Always bring the visitor choice. Make it clear that you're asking them to take the next step, to take action on your site. If you're putting anything on the page that isn't designed to make the visitor feel more comfortable and confident taking action, you're building something else. You're not building a landing page. So we're going to keep those 2 goals in mind as we go through this. Keep the promise, bring the visitor to choice. Now, we want to start with a clear, pure solution of web page, and we're going to add two elements. We're going to add an element of offer and an element of form. The offer, of course, should match the promise that was made in the ad, in the email, and the social media post. And the form is the most common way to take action on a landing page or on a digital page. So this is a complete landing page. It has both elements. That was pretty fast. That was easy. Any questions? Or do we have any questions? Oh, wait. There's probably something else to do, because submit. It's not a very good offer. The good news is, when you're thinking about offers, most of you already have some data that is laying around. You can go and find some data that will inform you not only of what offer to provide, but the words that you want to use for that offer. So here's a little example from our AdWords account. And I recommend that even if you're not involved in the advertising side of things, get your ad team to give you a spreadsheet for the last 6 months of the ads they've run, the number of impressions they've gotten, the number of clicks they've gotten, and every one of you should be tracking conversions as well. This is a spreadsheet that I pulled from our AdWords account because I wanted to know what words to use when talking about my agency. So we've got conversion agency, we've got CRO consulting. We really just wanted to know which of these was what people were thinking of when they thought of a business like ours. And, I like CRO consulting down here. This has, a pretty high sample size. We can cross this out because just sample size is just too low. And we've got a conversion or an interaction rate approaching 1%. So this is starting to tell me that maybe I should consider CRO consulting as the words that I would use on a page talking about ourselves. You'll have completely different questions, but there's great data in here that, as I said, even if you're not involved in paid search or advertising, you can learn a lot from it. We also did so we did this with a company called Hunter Douglas, and this was the landing page. To get off my back about how 90s it looked. This is the sort of thing that we generally inherit, and we wanted to know who was coming to this page. Now, we assumed Hunter Douglas, these are window coverings. These are blinds that you can control with your iPad or that open and close automatically in your windows when the sun comes out. This is expensive stuff. And so we thought these people wouldn't be price sensitive. We thought they would be mostly afraid of picking the wrong thing or being inconvenienced. But when we looked at the AdWords accounts, this is what we found. These were the highest performing ads, 20% off, $100 off. These are price sensitive people. These are what we call transactional buyers. Transactional buyers are afraid of spending $1 more than they could have. They see shopping as a part of the fun of this. They see it as a full contact sport. So when we say take the stress out of shopping, we're talking to the wrong crowd. Transactional shoppers don't want the stress taken out. So we're like, oh my gosh, we've got a completely different group of people coming to the site. So for these landing pages, what could we do? Well, first of all, we made sure we were keeping the promise. So we mentioned the $100 off for this particular ad, but we're talking about in-home manufacturer discounts, combined discounts, and even our call to action was lock in your discounts, because transactional buyers, the one thing they hate more than spending too much money is losing a discount they could have had. And this gave us a really nice 40% increase in the appointments booked for these window blinds. So this is how you can use information from your existing information from your AdWords account to make good decisions about how you're talking about your audience. We did this with our emails as well. I took 6 months of emails and I ranked them based on their click-through rate, which tells me this is what people are interested in. And look at this: writing, copywriting, persuasion, value proposition. Our audience is interested in the words that help people convert. And we didn't have any offering in that. So what we did was we created a lead magnet and offered it on our site. It's doing very well. You're welcome to download this at conversion.services/copyhacks and see if you agree that it is helpful. So look for data that's already around and get comfortable with how to use it to make these sorts of decisions in your marketing. Now, for our landing page, let's assume that we are the US Mint. Right now, they're printing a lot of money as we do quantitative easing and improve our economy in some way. Let's assume that they are selling dollar bills for 50 cents. And you're going to say, well, that's crazy. I mean, if our government sold our currency for half off, they would have no trouble selling it. But every one of your businesses has a fantastic product or service at the right price that saves time, that saves money, that solves a problem, and you still have trouble converting. You're on this call. The US Mint and your government would have trouble selling bills for half off. And it's just the nature of conversion optimization. So if you think this is crazy, it's not as crazy as you think. We're going to assume that the traffic coming to the site is from this paid search ad. Discounted dollar bills, 50% off, new US dollars from the leading reseller, www.mint.gov. And coming to this landing page, get US dollars 50% off. Click here. So this is a good landing page. It keeps the promise and invites the visitor to take action, to make that choice. But nothing happens when you click on the click here button. Nothing that helps the business and certainly nothing that helps the visitor. So we need to do something more. Why don't we ask for an email address? As I said, during this time when fewer people are buying, when they're hunkering down and saving, maybe getting an email address is the way to go about this. But this is 2020 and we can get sales online. So the government should go ahead and ask for a credit card. Better yet, why don't you ask for a friend's credit card? I think that would have an even higher conversion rate. The problem is, of course, that we can't just ask for a credit card number. We need a lot of personal information. We need to know your name. We need to know where you live. We need to know that secret number on the back of your credit card that no one's supposed to see, the CVV. We need to know the expiration date. And what we've done is we've introduced a contamination in our reaction. We call this contaminate abandon. And we give abandon the same symbol as the periodic table element argon. Because when someone abandons your landing page, they are gone. We want to minimize abandon. This is when we call up our copywriter. Hello, Mr. Copywriter. Yes, listen, we got a great deal. We're selling bills. We're selling money for half off. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Listen, though, we're asking for a lot of personal information. Can you write some copy that will help fill out our value proposition, manage some objections, and any good copywriter will say, yes, this is my job. This is what I do. But I need to know everything. They will want to understand everything about your visitors. And this is where this customer research starts to come into play. They say, I want to see the studies. I want to see the personas. I want to talk to your salespeople. I want to talk to your customer support people. This is a good copywriter. Now, they're not going to be able to come back with the ultimate best idea, no matter how much research they do. Here are 8 headlines for a landing page, for our landing page. All of them keep the promise, as they're supposed to, but they're going to have very different conversion rates, starting from simply double your money instantly. We could add a little scarcity here. This might be a good idea. 50% off dollars bills for a limited time only. And remember, I talked about those crazy ideas. The IRS says sorry. The IRS is our internal revenue service. They sell half-price dollar bills. I would probably read that page, but does that mean that I'm in the market for half-price dollars? That's the question. And not only the text, but something that we miss, something that we neglect. Images. Oftentimes, our designers will give us a wireframe. We'll fill certain blocks with copy, and then they'll go off to a stock photo site and find some images. Well, images are so powerful for advancing our value proposition that I think this is the biggest missed opportunity in most of our designs. I mean, we see things like this, shaking hands. You can get it from any stock photo site. We call this sort of thing business porn. And there's a really easy way to tell if you have business porn on your site. If you can't write a caption for an image that doesn't sound ridiculous, then that image is probably business porn. Now, shaking hands, it's really hard to advance your value proposition with shaking hands. In fact, we know what the caption for this is. It is, we want to shake your hand so that you can start sending us checks. We want to do a deal so we can start invoicing you, start billing you. That's what the shaking hands mean. Now, is that really what you want your landing page or your website to tell your visitors? And then there's these kinds of pictures. Pictures, these aren't employees of the company. These aren't customers of the company. These aren't partners of the company. These are stock photo models. And really the only caption you can write for this is, we aren't racist or sexist, and we aren't really sure why we had to point that out. This is pandering. This is a waste of space where you could have really moved your value proposition forward, but instead you played it safe. And I just hate these sorts of things. I literally got this off the National Retail Foundation's website. And I don't know what you're supposed to be saying. It's kind of cool looking, I guess. But the only caption I could come up with is, there's a man in our website and he's touching things. Images are important. Words are important. So what can you do to collect some data to see if you've got the right combination of words and images to convey what your audience is looking for? Well, I love the 5-second test. So you can go to Usability Hub or Helio, and there are a number of these. And what these companies do is bring people to look at your creative and answer questions. Now, the 5-second test is one of the kinds of tests you can run here. They see the creative for 5 seconds, and then you get to ask them questions about it. It disappears. So you're getting an idea of what impression your website is making in that first 5 seconds that somebody visits. And it needs to tell them that they're in the right place. And questions you ask include things like, what does this business do? Do you find this business credible? Do you remember any of the features, the bulleted features on this? What would you do if you wanted to take action? Which essentially asks them if they noticed the button and the call to action. These are great questions to ask that get to the fundamental basis of, is my page, are my words and my images communicating the value proposition quickly and effectively? I also love the click test. So this is where you measure how long it takes for someone to find something on a page and click on it. This is an insurance company. They were really interested in knowing how quickly people could find roadside assistance. So they put this page, which is a complex page, into a mouse click test. And they found out that, yes, most people are able to find the right answer. A few people up here did not, but it took 20 seconds. 20 seconds for them to find that location. This is a problem. So they did a redesign, and like you and I could both say, oh, this is so much better. But is it? Didn't Finish Line say, wow, this is so much better? So we want to run it through that test one more time. And sure enough, people found the new location for that. But we know that it only took them 5 seconds. So this is a superior design from the one before. And not just because we looked at it and said we like it better. Data supported that. And these are the sorts of things you need to be bringing back to your team. So my copywriter comes back with some well-educated offers. They, everybody knows what a dollar bill is. We don't need to tell them. We need to build trust. So from the leading reseller and user dollar bills, you can trust us. Genuine US dollar bills, new, still in circulation, and even offered some proof. The more specific your proof is, the better it is. And we know that we can add some things to the page to build trust. Our logo is one of those things. The logos of our customers, associations we're a member of, awards we've won, we can borrow trust. Even media outlets that have covered us, we're borrowing trust from well-known media outlets onto our page to help build trust. And we'll use things like the logos of big banks that are processing our credit cards. We can borrow trust from them. So we're borrowing trust from big banks and government agencies. I think there's a problem with this, but trust me, it should work. So now we invite the designer in. We've come so far already, and we haven't got a single gray page, wireframe, anything like that. This is usually the opposite of the way things are done. Usually we start with the designer who gives us a layout, but I'm going to tell you, you need to build your landing pages backwards. And they're going to come back with something like this. So it's cool. It looks good. They're designing for you. They're designing for the executives on your team. They're an agency. They're designing for their clients, not for the client's clients. And so we get things like this background, this big background that just slows our load time, doesn't show the product. I don't even know what this blurriness is. But this is from an actual landing page template. And who fills out teal forms? No, they need to be white or gray. So we've lost the product image. It's just not here at all. What else could we do? Well, we can actually go and do an eye tracking study. So there is a company called Toby, also called Sticky.ai. And unfortunately, for some reason, my animation is not working. But what you can do is invite people to look at your creative, and the cameras in our laptops are so good that we can tell where on the screen they're looking. So we'll get an idea of where visitors are looking on the screen, what they're lingering on, what they're skipping over, and this will give our layout person, our designer, some information about how to lay things out better. And what you'll end up with is something a little bit more like this. So this is not as cool. This is not going to wow your boss. This is not going to wow your clients. But this is more likely to convert. We've got the headline front and center, keeping the promise. We've got the logo front and center. We've got all of our proof here. It is very clear that we are asking visitors to do something. We even have an arrow, use arrows. We've highlighted the key points. We've got the product shot. This page is going to work better. Now, it doesn't have to be ugly. This, by the way, is a template that we use for one of our highest converting landing pages, and we haven't touched it. But you can go and do things a little bit more interesting, show the product in a more interesting way, really highlight the call to action. You see what I'm saying, right? We're not designing for designers. We're designing for our end users.
Definitely, Brian. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh.
Just we are, in the schedule. Thank you so much for your keynote. I'm sure you will share the slides with the audience, right?
Yes, and I'm looking at the wrong clock. I'm sorry that I went so long.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We enjoyed it. Actually, we could, all of us, I believe, we can listen to you for hours. It's really awesome. We will definitely get you in our next webinars. Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate for watching, and we'll catch up with you soon. Everyone is very happy about your presentation. So thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Speak soon.
As an e-commerce manager, you want to stop spending money on expensive ads. OmniConvert Explore helps you improve conversion through A/B testing, personalization, and surveys. Understand that growth is also a matter of retention, not only acquisition. With OmniConvert Reveal, you'll understand segments, monitor customer experience, and nurture your customers on every channel.